And welcome back to episode number 94 of Raise the Banner podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts for now. Benny Ballgame is MIA for the moment, but he should hopefully be joining us soon. But for now, it is myself, Matt Couture, as usual, here with Zach Pruitt. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. We got plenty to jump into. The Patriots, man, they continue to rack up the wins after a slow start to the season. 1-2 start. They are on a 5-game win streak. They have improved to 6-2. They hosted the Cleveland Browns this weekend. A little bit of a slow start. Cleveland went down. Patriots went down to kick the field goal. Cleveland came down. Really went right up the field or right down the field and scored a touchdown. Things didn't really look good right off the bat. But as we know with this Patriots team, they seem to struggle in the first drive or two of the game defensively for some reason. But as we know, like I just said, they seem to figure it out after that, and they went on a kind of dominant streak after that, and they pulled away in what was another pretty convincing win. What are your thoughts on the game as a whole, coming out of another victory and heading into this Atlanta matchup? What were your thoughts on this week 8 victory?
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. We started out slow. Defense looked tough in the beginning. I was at my buddy's house watching the game, and his aunt had said something like, the Browns already scored. Might as well call it a day. They're going to lose, which would have been true the last 2-3 years. Like they go down and there's just no fight. But as we've seen with this team, they continue to just maybe start slow, get a feel for the game, and then second series, second drive, whatever, they come out and the defense shows out. But Drake May continues to do MVP style things. This year has been fun to watch. He's definitely taken that step. There hasn't been a sophomore slump at all. He continues to get better and better each week. Him and Booty continue to have a great rapport downfield. Stephon Diggs finally got his first touchdown after, what are we on, week 8, week 9, whatever we're at. So that was good to see. And then TreVeyon Henderson also, finally getting some good looks, some good yardage. Looked like they all came on toss plays. So I wonder if that was kind of, schemed up with McDaniels. To get him outside, get him running the outside and up in the tackles. But overall good game. Defense, again, after the first drive, really shut him down. Will Campbell struggled probably more than a lot of us would have thought. Did he give up 5 sacks? I know Myles Garrett had 5 sacks, but either way.
I think he was credited with 2.
2?
I thought he played fine.
Yeah.
I don't think he generally played like phenomenal. I think he played fine as a whole. Like for a rookie, I thought he played solid.
Yeah, for a rookie going up against Myles Garrett.
If he wasn't a rookie, if he was a veteran, I would say he played like okay type of thing.
100%. He played as well as he could have for a rookie going against Myles Garrett. Like looking at the game, giving up 2 sacks to him is really as good as you can do. And they got the win by 20, 21 points, whatever it was. So overall, again, just another game. Really, like it's wild to say that it's another game putting up 32 points in a season or in a decade where we haven't done that a lot. So certainly good things to see.
Yeah, this was the first time they put up over 30 points in a while. Believe it or not, it was they put up in the 20s a lot, but this was the first time they've actually put up over 30 in a while. I was very impressed, really with the composure after the initial start. The defense seems to be what I like to see. They seem to be finding themselves a little more now. It's a little bit tough to kind of gauge truly what they are because a guy like Dillon Gabriel, he's not really an NFL starting quarterback. I think that you can see that just with And it makes you wonder what was Cleveland really thinking in drafting this guy. You know, no offense to Dillon Gabriel, he seems like a good dude, but you could just kind of watch him, and you just can kind of see that he doesn't have what it's going to be an NFL starter. Nevertheless, like you can see this team, they have yet to allow a rusher to hit over 50 yards rushing. Like that's ridiculous.
And they face some pretty good running backs too.
50 yards is not a lot. That's very few yards in a game.
Yeah. Very
impressive. We're not talking like 75 yards. We're talking 50 yards in a game. That's very impressive. Spillane has really kind of come on in recent weeks. He had a phenomenal game, probably his best game of the year this past week. With the interception, I believe he had 14 tackles.
Jesus.
He's playing really well. I think Gonzalez is kind of coming into his own as he's finally getting, really, because he didn't have his training camp. He was finding his footing in the first couple weeks. He's starting to really find his step. I thought Carlton Davis kind of robbed in one of the calls on him early in the game. I thought as a whole he played relatively well. Again, it's tough a little bit because you're facing a defense an offense that's not very, very dangerous. But they're playing some better football on the defensive side, and I think they're kind of continuously taking steps forward there. We'll jump into the trade deadline and stuff like that, and obviously we know that they got rid of White and Duggar and all that type of stuff. And as Benny Ballgame looks to have finally found his laptop, and okay,
then he leaves again.
Then he leaves. He needs to connect his mic and cam before he can be added. We'll jump into that later. But this defense seems to be taking steps forward. One, because I think they're still far from hitting their identity. Mike Vrabel, I think, still needs to, he's still developing this defense, right? It's going to take multiple years for him to build this defense with the players that he really wants in the style that he really wants. Two, they lost Terrell Williams, and he needs to get healthy and prayers up to him. But that was a step back in terms of like development and all that, and just kind of a bump in the road of trying to get everybody on track and ready to go early in the season. And so it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road early on, but they're starting to find their footing there defensively. So it's really good to see that. And then obviously, like I said, we can jump into the trade deadline in a little bit. But then offensively, like you said, Will Campbell, don't get me wrong, Myles Garrett had a field day against them. I think Campbell was credited with two. One of them came on like a rollout by May that wasn't credited to anybody. One was on Moses, and then one I think went on Garrett Wilson. Not Garrett Wilson, Jared
Wilson. Yeah.
And so I think he was credited with two. And then, like you said, the Boutte connection. I will give Kayshon Boutte all the props in the world because he continues to prove. I wouldn't want to say prove me wrong. Because when I drafted him, I was all for that pick. I was like, that he's got the talent. Like he was well worth that pick, worth the flyer. But like I kept going into the season, like I was mocking him in potential. Granted, it was because like if we were going to get like a T. Higgins or something like that, and he was going to become movable. But I was mocking him for like. A fourth round pick maybe this past season. And Ben was even telling me like, you're not going to get a fourth round pick for him. And now it's like, he's coming on and we're saying, well, maybe he could be a wide receiver 3 for this team. And then now it's like, maybe he could be a wide receiver 2 for this team. And he's continuously coming out and making play week after week, big plays down the field, and even stretching the field like, vertically, and the deep balls and he's getting open and he's making the big catches, which is something that I wasn't sure if he had the speed and the ability to create that separation at the second level, and he's doing that. And then May specifically has just been,
MVP level.
He's just been stupid.
The routes that
he had the interception he threw was awful. I will say that he was just awful. He just missed the guy. It happens. Like you don't want to. You don't want to like. It happens to everybody.
You don't want to harp on it too much.
Has a bad play like that. He literally just like I think he was looking downfield, didn't see the guy take a couple steps back into coverage, and he just threw it directly to him. But he has been outstanding as his like press conference or answer like was asked that question before, and he was like, yeah, I just kind of forgot he knows how to jump. So he like kind of admitted to like a stupid mistake. It happens. It's been his first interception in like multiple weeks or whatever it is. But Booty, to your point, like yes, the deep ball is obviously now become his like strong suit. But even the routes he was running, like the routes against Denzel Ward, he had that triple move where it was like a sluggo, and then he hooked it back into a comeback route, and he just completely left Denzel Ward in the dust. He had a couple other routes that were very impressive. And at some weeks you said he's the wide receiver 2. On some weeks it feels like he's a wide receiver 1B, whatever. With Diggs kind of being the number 1 when he gets open. So it has been fun to watch. Obviously the talent was there. But it's been fun to watch him and in May kind of finally become, a true tandem. Yeah. All right, Ben, you're here. Finally. Where was your laptop?
I don't really want to admit to that because I blamed the wrong people.
So it's your
turns
fault.
out it was on the middle shelf of my nightstand where things go to die. I don't know how it ended up there because the AC adapter was in my oldest kid's room, which means I'm like, okay, like why would I have brought my laptop like out of the office without a charger? Like that's weird. Like it was dead. So clearly it had been sitting there since the last time we recorded like a week and a half ago. But I am mildly mentally handicapped, so I don't have any excuses. I probably just wandered off with it and put it down somewhere and was like, oh yeah, I'll remember this another time, and clearly didn't.
I'm going to tell you kids that you blame them.
I'll for a lot of things, yes. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. You're muted.
Patriots.
I'm feeling good. I was inspired. I went out and got this thing for like $4 today. So you guys seemed like you were touching on some good points. At first, I gave a ton of credit to just talking about the Drake May interception, a ton of credit to the defensive player. And then looking at it, like clearly he had zoned in on, and I don't know who was, it was probably Booty on the crosser. Was not a good decision to throw the ball. He was pretty covered, even if the guy who had dropped off the defensive line into coverage didn't do that. Like if he was still rushing, it still wouldn't have been a great decision because Booty wasn't exactly open on the crosser unless May threw it down and away at him. But overall, still happy, with where they're at. It's really hard to complain with 6-2 and they're call it a game up in the division. They've got a half a game up on Buffalo, but they own the tiebreaker. So for all intents and purposes, let's just call it what it is and say that they're a game up on the Bills. They are, I don't know what the tiebreaker is. I'm guessing it's a conference record, but they do currently sit as the 2 seed. It's a tiebreaker with Denver, who's also 6-2. So obviously they're in a good spot. So I still feel like there's places where they can improve. They don't have linebackers that can cover. That was evident by the Harold Fannin touchdown, who like nobody went with him. And that's not a linebacker exclusive issue. Nobody went with him. There was no safety help. The corners kind of got mixed up on the cross. But tight ends have been pretty successful against them in that intermediate level of the defense because they don't have linebackers that can cover. Having said that, obviously they had a pretty successful day. Dylan Gabriel threw one right to Robert Spillane. For a second there, I thought he was going to take it all the way. He kind of got tripped up, obviously, at the end. I believe that was the Diggs touchdown. is what resulted in that. There's certainly places where they can improve. I know Vrabel harps on that every single, you get those clips on the Patriots social media. There's still better, more things they can do. They can still get better. I don't recall. So I was kind of in and out. So I was up at, in New Hampshire at my, at our rental property, getting some stuff done because we're trying to get the Heat situated. And so I was kind of in and out, bouncing around. So I watched a fair bit of the game, but not all of it. I don't recall seeing a ton of dumb penalties. So I thought in that respect, they were cleaner. Obviously Myles Garrett more than, I don't know what you guys are laughing at. I did not see you. I forget that you have permission to do that. I'm like, you guys is an inside joke.
He's like, what is Zach giggling about over there?
Zach's over there like a kid opening presents on Christmas morning, and I don't know why.
I was waiting for you to see that.
But I don't recall them taking a ton of dumb penalties. Myles Garrett pretty much got whatever he wanted when he wanted to get it. I know he kind of beat up on other guys not named Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell was credited or faulted, however you want to say it, I think with 2 of the sacks that Garrett had. I know he beat up on Wilson pretty good, and then he beat up, like, Myles Garrett moves around. I know he beat Moses a couple of times off the right side to get his 5 sacks. So the offensive line was a little concerning. That was kind of the biggest negative. I know that the Browns' offensive operation is not super great. Dylan Gabriel is okay. He flashes at times, but I don't think he's a starter in this league. He might develop into like a good backup in the right system where, they utilize his skill set behind somebody else. But I thought the defense played really well. Again, with a grain of salt, Cleveland's offense is not very good. They don't have a ton of talent on offense outside of like Quinshon Judkins, who I don't know if he got hurt, but they bottled him up pretty well, which is the calling card of this team. I think it's 8 straight games without allowing a singular rusher to go, was it over 50 or hit 50 yards?
Yeah. Oh, well, hit either one. Yeah.
So, so I kind of take the defense's, success with a grain of salt, again, because I don't think the Cleveland offense is good at all. I was more impressed with the fact that the Patriots were able to hang 30 points on the Browns defense. I know that they're not great at keeping teams off the board. I think going into last week, they were middle of the pack at giving up points, and that yardage-wise, they were the best defense in football. So, to see Drake May throw for 285, the interception notwithstanding, I told Matt before the game, I really felt like Drake May would struggle to get over 200 yards. And just because I thought that, the defensive line was going to win a lot, and they have good guys on the back end. I know Matt wants Grant Delpit. He can dream about Myles Garrett because that's a pipe dream, but they obviously have good guys in the back end. So I was really impressed to see May go for 284 and the 3 touchdowns. I know we talked, let's see. What was the Patriots record when they beat the Bills? That got them to 3-2, correct? I think it got them to 3-2.
Yes.
I'd have to look at the schedule, but I'm pretty sure it got them to 3-2. And
yeah,
I think it did, because then the Bills were 3-1 afterwards.
That's right. We gave them their first loss. So, and I know that at that point we kind of did the look ahead and we're like, well, if the Patriots are 3-2 and they just beat the Bills, like this is they enter going into like the softest part of their schedule before they find like another real test. Atlanta feels like they're all over the place. Michael Penix is not fully healthy, and Kirk Cousins looked awful. I don't know if he was just rusty or if he literally is just old and not good anymore. But he was not good last week. So feel confident about the Falcons game. Then you have obviously Tampa next week, and then how many games is it before they play Cincinnati? 3 or 2? I don't have the schedule. I'd have to look at the schedule, but
they think at least 3.
Patriot schedule. So Bucks. So they have 3 games before Cincinnati. So they have the Falcons this week. Then it's at Tampa, the Jets at home, and then at Cincinnati. So I know that after they beat the Bills to get over 500, we looked at it and went, is it unrealistic to think that this team could be 7-2 going into the Bucks game? And none of us felt like it was unrealistic. I felt like at a bare minimum they needed to go 3-1 in the 4 games in between that Bills and the Bucks game. And we're staring at 4-0, which is, I'm not going to complain. So I like where the team's at. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat handily. They should have beat New Orleans by more, but those phantom defensive penalties cost them at least 2 touchdowns, in my opinion. So there's another 30-point game right there. Again, like, they're handling business when they need to, and they're doing it. I don't dare say easily, but when you look at the full product of a 60-minute game, like, they handled the Browns last weekend. They handled the Titans 2 weeks ago. And so, it's really hard to complain about where they're at. Again, they're taking advantage of the schedule. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So looking ahead, if they can, like, the Bucks game, the Bengals game to an extent, I know, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's no Joe Burrow, and now Joe Flacco's got an AC joint problem. So not exactly sure what that means for his abilities moving forward, but Cincinnati's defense can't stop anybody. But if they can be competitive in those games, like, I know that there's no such thing as a moral victory to professional athletes and coaches, but as a fan, like, if they lose to Tampa and it's a dogfight from the opening kick to the last whistle and they're never not in the game, like, win or lose, I think as a fan, you're like, okay, they went up against a real team with a real offense, albeit they're
on the road.
Hurt. Huh?
On the road.
Right, on the road. Now, granted, they don't have Mike Evans. Godwin's not 100%. Bucky Irving's not 100%. And so,
Well, I imagine Bucky will probably be back by that game. Like, Buka will be good. Godwin will be good.
But they're not going to be. But they won't be 100%. Like, they'll play, but they may not be 100%. But again, even still, like, to your point, like, they're going to have, minus Mike Evans, they're going to have their full complement of weapons on offense. So, win or lose, if they can have a competitive game against the Bucks, like, as a fan, I really don't think I'd be that disappointed. I'll be a little, if it's like they're competitive and, a dumb penalty or, a stupid mistake late cost them a game, like, that's going to hurt. But if they're in the game,
that's more of a frustrating loss.
Yeah,
that's just like you could have had it for a loss.
Yeah, but if they're in the game from start to finish and they're playing smart, competitive football in a game against Tampa, like, that's really all I could expect from that. So, I'm glad they're taking advantage of the soft schedule, and I hope that they can learn and grow, and that this rolls in, and that they can be competitive because they really only have 4 hard games on the schedule. And one of them is not even really necessarily a hard game, because you've got Tampa, then you've got the Bengals, Bills, Ravens. Like, those are really their 4 hardest games left.
Yeah, I mean, they can only play, obviously, like, what's in front of them, right? And so they've beaten up on these lower end teams, and they're not scraping by these teams. They're beating them convincingly. The game's over, really, for the most part, like, at worst, halfway through the fourth quarter. Like, these games haven't been down to the wire by any means, really. They'll face Atlanta this weekend, who I think they should have Penix back. I think they'll have London back. It's a very hit or miss Atlanta team. They seem to either play really well or play very poorly. So, it's not going to be just some cakewalk of a situation here, but they should win. And then, like you said, they face a Tampa team that, I don't know, and we'll take it game by game, but I don't know if we're going to go into it expecting to win. Probably not. But this team has showed enough, at least at the moment, where you say, like, that there's certainly a chance that they can. I mean, clearly this offense can put up points. Clearly this offense can put up 25, 27, 30 points a game. They're doing that pretty consistently now. And by consistently, I mean basically every game. The Bucs defense is a little bit better than some of these others' defense, but I mean the Cleveland defense was a pretty good defense, and they went up and down the field on them pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
And so all they could do is go up against what they have. And so it's, I get the people, for the outside perspective, if you're not a Patriots fan, you're saying, well, they haven't faced enough competition. Wait till they face someone of real talent. And I get it. If I was not a Patriots fan, I would do the same thing, right? If this was the Bills or the Chiefs, or like we kind of did a similar thing with the Commanders last year. They had a super easy schedule. When we talked about them towards the end of the season, we were like, well, they haven't really faced anybody. When Miami was doing pretty well, and they were like, oh, McDaniel is like this guru, and it's like, well, they're like 8-0 against losing records, and they're 0-4 against winning records. It's like,
yeah, and then they got smoked by Kansas City in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like, well, how really good are you? And so, it's not necessarily about like, because someone commented on it on a post of mine. I was like, well, wait till they face a real team. And I was like Buffalo, and they're like, oh, literally one game. And I was like, well, you're the one that said wait till they face a real team. I listed a real team, and then you're the one that said, well, literally one game. So like, what do you want from me? Like, you're the one that made that comment. So, I don't know what again. So if they go into Tampa in a perfect world, they take another victory, and if they beat Atlanta and they go into Tampa and take a victory and they win, and it doesn't need to be convincingly. They could win a dogfight. They could win off the skin of their teeth. They could win in a last-minute field goal. Like, that will send a message to every team in the NFL, to every fan base, that says, the Patriots are real. This isn't some fluke. Yeah. This isn't some, team that is just beating up on bad teams and they're actually not very good. No, you go into Tampa and you beat a team that has been consistently a top 10 team since Brady got there and Mayfield took over. A team that has been consistently good on both sides of the ball for the last 6 or 7 years. You go in there on the road and win that game, you put yourselves on the map and say, we are a true contender. Now, the big question, and this is what we can kind of jump into, is this is going to be post-trade deadline, right? They obviously have just traded away Kyle Duggar, Keon White. I spoke about this, and I think you hadn't come on yet. Or you might have just been coming on. I spoke about Vrabel. Vrabel seemingly, I think this defense is still almost a year or two away of Vrabel really showing his identity on this defense, and getting the players that he really thinks fits this defense and what he wants to do. And he's letting go of the players that obviously he doesn't see fit. What do we feel in terms of this? Do you see anybody else going out? And who do you see possibly as possible guys that could be added to the mix here over the next, what do we have? I think it's 6 days.
I mean, it's hard to say who I think would be going out. They've made it a priority that Vrabel's defense is specific to certain guys, right? Like, he wants guys to fit in. Duggar had only been playing 35 or 40% of the snaps on defense over the course of the year. And I think that dwindled a lot towards the end prior to the trade. So it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if they would move on from any one player in particular. I feel like maybe they won't actively shop anybody, but if somebody were to come along and say, hey, we're looking to shed money but we still want to be semi-competitive. Maybe somebody's like, what will it take to move a guy like Mac Hollins if a team wants to get rid of a high-priced wide receiver that could help us now? Like, I could see something like that where they may not necessarily, hang up the phone on certain guys. Specific trade targets. Matt, you've had Delpit's name up on here for the entirety of this, at least since I was able to jump on. He's a guy that I would target. For me, I've been more thinking about like positionally what helps them moving forward. Help in the secondary. They're not, their pass defense is kind of, that's where they're getting hurt. They still, they improved a little bit with the last game because I don't think did Gabriel top 200 yards. I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
But they're kind of outside the middle of the pack. They're giving up 224 yards a game through the air passing. Comparatively speaking, they're in the same category as teams like the Eagles and the Bucks and the 49ers and the Seahawks. There's only a couple of teams that are real contenders that are giving up more yards per game through the air. And I'm not even sure they're contenders, right? Like Indianapolis, Dallas, and Pittsburgh are three of the four worst pass defenses, and those are teams that'll probably be there at the end. I know Dallas is a game under 500, but they're kind of still in the mix, right? But anyway, so secondary help, whether it's corner, safety, or both. I would love for them to find a coverage linebacker on the market. That seems to be their biggest weak spot in the second part of the defense is, linebackers who can cover. Obviously you can't get enough help on the edge. Offensively, I feel like they're kind of content with what they got. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move at wide receiver, but I don't expect it. But I do think they're in the market for like a depth running back, somebody like a Jaylen Warren, somebody like, he hasn't really been effective for them. Somebody like a Breece Hall, who has a ton of upside and just for whatever reason hasn't gotten it going in New York. I don't know what the snap percentage is between him and Braylon Allen, but like that whole operation is just a mess. So those would be the positions I think that they would target. And they obviously have a plan. So, I would trust, the operation to decide, what players best fit the mold for filling some holes down the line.
Yeah, as you were going through that, I agree that it's tough to kind of pinpoint a offensive position group. I know like Mike Reese came out and said that they're probably going to be shopping for a running back. Nick Cattles came out and said like Jerome Ford, for example, would be on the block for the Browns, could be a target for the Patriots. You said Breece Hall as well. Apparently they've made calls on Chuba Hubbard. I don't know how real that is. Just saw it on Twitter this morning. Obviously Rico Dowdle has kind of been outplaying Chuba, so there could be something there. But I agree more so on the defensive side of obviously Grant Delpit would be the goal. But is there someone I guess Alex Wright from the Browns is also available. Kayvon Thibodeau feels like more of a pipe dream now that Giants have been continuously saying that he's not going to be available for trade. But is there someone either in the pass rush or in pass coverage, whether it's a linebacker or a safety? Those would be the positional targets that I would go after. And I think I couldn't find the names of the people but in terms of those would be the positional players that I would go after. And again, if they do make a move on offense, it would be minimal, like a depth running back. I think they like Mac Hollins. Ben, to your point of would they move him? I think they like him as maybe a third a 3A, 3B option for Drake May. So I'd be kind of surprised if they moved on from him. But yeah, I guess if I had to put, some money on it, it would be looking at wide receiver, looking at running back to upgrade there, and then getting some additional help either in the pass rush or the pass coverage.
Yeah, a couple of guys that I did hear you brought up names, and it kind of jogged my memory. I was listening to 98.5 today, and I forget who they had on during Zolek and Bertrand, but they were asking about potential trade targets.
Jordan Schultz.
Who?
Jordan Schultz.
Maybe.
I think he might have been on.
Yeah, it was him. And the guy that he mentioned that could be on his way out is Anthony Jennings.
I saw that too.
I pulled an article from ESPN from I think it's earlier today, and it says key position of need is running back. So this is Schatz writing for the Patriots. Says third running back could be useful with Antonio Gibson obviously out for the season, particularly someone who could contribute as a receiver and in the return game. The Patriots used a ton of what they call pony personnel, which is 2 running backs in the early part of the season. Mike Reese brought up the Anthony Jennings thing, said 6-year veteran who is from the prior Bill Belichick defense is now the backup to Harold Landry and Clavon Chason. And then somebody that they think could be targeted, it's a name that I've seen out there, is Rashid Shaheed from the Saints.
He'd be an option as well. To that point, I was looking up. I know my buddy and I have been going back and forth on Twitter and like sending all these reports. I guess Mike Giardi said, on the pass rushing reinforcements, he mentioned, the Kayvon Thibodeau name. He also mentioned Trey Hendrickson as like a pipe dream, but also Arden Key, Jalen Phillips, and Chop Robinson all being potential fits there too. So it feels like they're looking for, just on reports alone, feels like they're looking more for the pass rush and running back. But again, pass coverage is certainly an area of need as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would call this necessarily an official report for myself, but like from the people that I've spoken to, is I do know that they're willing to potentially swing big. And I say that because I know for a fact that they've reached out about some big names. Now, whether those names are like true are available, to what extent,
you got any nuggets you want to drop out there? Or are you just going to dangle the carrot and let us hope for the best?
I mean, I know for a fact that they have reached out about AJ Brown over the last couple of weeks. I know the price on AJ Brown is pretty high. I don't know what it is exactly. I know for a fact that they have reached out.
Do you think it would cost them their first round pick? Or is it more like a second and a fourth type of deal?
Again, I don't know. Just my opinion. I don't think necessarily their first. My guess would be it would probably be like a second and a third, maybe something like that. I know that they're willing to, they're not afraid to go and use like a second or third round pick. Maybe even a first round pick if it was really for that type of guy. Hypothetically, and again, this isn't like a report or anything. Like Pat McAfee put up on his thumbnail on his YouTube page today, could the Patriots go out and get Myles Garrett? It was kind of really weird and random. Like on the front thumbnail of his page, what everybody sees to advertise the front of his
YouTube
video for today.
Yeah. Did you listen to it at all? Was it just
no? It was like,
is he trying to bait people to like for clicks or like? I mean, obviously McAfee's pretty well connected. Like, does he know something? Like, is his ear to the ground?
I believe he made a comment suggesting the Patriots could be swinging big or trying to swing big as well. And so, I look at that and again, from what I've heard through the grapevine is a little bit of just whispers. They would be willing to swing big if the price was there. Again, it's really difficult to make these type of trades in season with big names for so many obvious reasons. But I just keep going back to a name like a Grant Delpit. I haven't heard that if he's even available. I'm just trying to wish that into. I'm trying to basically just push that into the world of existence. They need another safety option. Cleveland doesn't have a ton of motivation to move him, but he's a guy that I would send a 3rd round pick for if I'm the Patriots. He's a guy that could be here. He could lock into that safety position for the next 3 to 4 years, and be a guy that you can rely on, and he would be an instant upgrade over everything you have in the back end of the secondary. And so I would really, really like it for them to address the safety position. In terms of the edge, don't rule out them adding interior too. I know they have the Barmore, the Williams, the Tonga, and stuff like that, but they did move Keon White, who was playing a little bit more inside. They move a lot in and out of that position as well. They could move guys. They could find a bigger edge guy, right? A guy that can play a 3-4, and they could use Chase on more as a 4 linebacker off the edge in certain snaps as well. So don't be shocked if they acquire an edge piece that also could fit into a 3-4 mold, kind of like a Keon White was too, to replace him. As a whole, though, those are the 2 spots for me, right? Safety and edge. We talked about wide receiver. I'm a big Shaheed fan in terms of what I think he can be if he went into a place like the Patriots. You pair him with Drake May, I think that's a really good fit. Really, really good fit. Will he be moved? I don't know. Do the Patriots need a receiver? It's tough to say. I don't know if what snaps is he going to take? It's probably Matt Collins' snaps. Is it worth it? I don't know. But then I do agree with a depth running back. Would I be okay with the Breece Hall deal if the price was right? Sure. But I'm more just in find a veteran depth running back that's just a reliable, cheap. It won't cost you much of anything. Maybe a 7th round pick, and bring him into the mix. And something that will just give you a little bit more security, in case someone like Stevenson goes down. Because one of the questions I got today, someone asking to send in the episode was if Stevenson went down, do you think the Patriots would be comfortable with Henderson leading the backfield? And my answer to that is, well, they wouldn't really have a choice, right? I don't know if they necessarily be
right. They wouldn't be comfortable with it, but unless they make a move, there's no other option.
Yeah, they wouldn't really have a choice. So that's my answer to it, is they wouldn't really have a choice to it. So I guess that they would have to. Right.
Yeah.
It'd be similar to, was it 2017 when they had Dion Lewis as their main running back, and he was by no means a tackles running back. He was a more of a swing screen type back. But yeah, then they would have to go out and use Terrell Jennings as their RB2, and then go find someone either on the practice squad or go find somebody via trade or whatever, a low-level pickup. Or I guess at that point, depending on how bad Ramondre Stevenson's injury would be, if he's out for the year, they go get a true number 2 or a true number 1 like a Breece Hall, or God forbid a Chuba, if he's even available. But Travion, as of right now, they'd be forced into it, and can they get away with keep doing these toss and swing passes? Who knows?
Yeah, and I lean no for obvious reasons on Henderson being the lead back in this situation. in addition to everything that we've already talked about is, I mean, what we've seen so far is that in key passing down situations, Stevenson's in the backfield as a pass blocker. So they don't feel like Henderson is, not to say that he's not ready, but it seems like they're not believing that he's the better pass blocking option than Stevenson, especially in a high leverage situation. So, I don't know what the makeup of a guy like a Chuba Hubbard or a Jalen Warren is in terms of their pass blocking prowess, but it wouldn't shock me if you don't see like a high profile name out there that they go acquire because they would rather have somebody who can be a pass blocking depth guy. Because they have, obviously Stevenson, Henderson, and Jennings can all run the ball, effectively. But I think what they lack is depth in the pass blocking game. So I don't know who could possibly be available as a potential pass blocking depth guy who could just be a change of pace back, but that wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, I mean, I was like Henderson. He's not. I don't know if he's ever going to be like the true, full-blown 3-down back. What they did this weekend is that's how you maximize him, right? It's get him into space because he has that home run ability. He reminds me, I don't want to. I think he's not him, but like he reminds me a little bit of Gibbs in how you use him. And so. Like that's how like Montgomery's the complement to him, right? Montgomery, they use him a little bit more inside the tackles. Not that they can't use Gibbs because Gibbs is better inside the tackles than Henderson is, but they're able to use if they can use Henderson a little bit more in space. That's how you maximize his ability because he does have that ability to hit the edge and outrun people to the corner, outrun people to the edge. And break through the second level. That's how you maximize his ability.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, he did look much better this past week. Like I said, on those toss plays outside, certainly is not a good between the tackles runner just yet. Ramondre is certainly the better one, right now. They definitely tried to make him more of a 3-down back a couple years ago. When he first came out, 2021, I believe, was his only 1,000-yard rushing yard season, and then 2022 when Matt Patricia just ran him into the ground with every screenplay, 3rd and 10, 3rd and gotta have it was to him. But I agree. I don't think that's his skill set. I think that he was just kind of forced into that. So if and when gets up, if and when he gets up, like, is he going to be a better option to take the load off Ramondre? That's the goal. I would hope, at least, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, even long term, like when I think after this year they're going to try to move on from Stevenson. Like I think their goal in this draft will even be to try to find like a thumper back between the tackles, big body guy that can complement Henderson, right? Where Henderson can be, quote unquote, the lead back, and this guy can be that thumper, maybe goal line complement to him. A little bit of a reverse kind of like of the third down, first and second down versus the third down back, kind of a reverse situation. And that might be the best way to complement Henderson. Or you can bring someone in that's pretty similar to him and do kind of like what they've been doing a little bit, is do 2 different backs in the field. And as long as you mix both of them in and out and keep both of them fresh, you won't overuse either of them.
Yeah, a guy that would fit that, like, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole because it's October 29th. But a guy, like, if they're going to move on from Stevenson and get and have, like, Henderson be the explosive player with like you said, like a big-bodied thumping kind of running back, a guy that I would circle would be Katron Allen out of Penn State. who goes 5'11", 220, which by NFL standards, that's about as big of a back as you're going to get by modern standards. Like the days of the Derrick Henrys, 6 foot, 250-pound running backs, like those guys are basically extinct at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't really see them much anymore. But I just that would be the kind of best compliment for him long term. But in terms of the short term of what they're looking for, you can go a variety of ways depending on how they want to like play it out. They could go big and for a Breece Hall, that type of thing, and that would be, that would be a big bye to Stevenson and a big hit to Henderson in the next coming years, right? I mean, Henderson would have become an afterthought for the next year or two, at least. Or what's more likely is they just find a complement guy to just add some depth into the mix.
Yeah.
And that way it's not much of just a security blanket. As a whole, is there anything else that you guys are like clamoring for in terms of changes to the roster? I mean, they really don't have, which it's kind of shocking to think about. And they were talking about this on 98.5. They don't really have a glaring weakness. There's not like
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't think there's a part of the team that's like a clear cut, like, wow, that part of the team is horrible.
I mean, I don't think I agree with that assessment.
What part of the team is horrible?
Their pass defense is atrocious.
No, it was to start the season. It's been much better lately. I know they're not playing that great. It's like
I mean, again, like I know that it's I don't know what the passing game log looked like against the Bills, but like to me, like if I had to say one, and I don't know if it's a positional need because I mean, like I would lean that safety is a bigger need than corner because I'd like to think that between Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis and Marcus Jones, like those three guys should be okay. And I think for the most part they have been. I know that Davis has had his struggles at times. Jones has been nothing short of spectacular. But like, I feel like the back end of the secondary at safety is like they need a veteran presence so that guys like Hawkins and Woodson can grow within the system. Like I feel like Craig Woodson could, but he's learning on the fly. You're muted, but he's learning on the fly. So like to me, I would say like safety is like the number one need. To your point, is it clear cut? Like that's absolutely the clear cut number one need the Patriots have. I mean, I think you could make a legitimate argument for other things, but to me, like the last level of defense has been the weakest part of this team.
Yeah, I would agree it's the weakest part, but I'm saying in terms of like in the big picture, like is it a glaring hole on the roster? In terms of like, is it just a horrible part of the roster? I don't think the secondary as a whole is like horrible. I think it had early struggles, but now that Gonzalez has found his footing, I think Davis has been a little bit better. Marcus Jones has had probably the best year of his career. Hawkins is a little bit hit or miss. He's working his way in and out. And like you said, we all agree that safety is one of their bigger needs.
Yeah. So looking at this, take this with a grain of salt. But going off of Pro Football Focus, Jalen Hawkins is the 7th best safety in the NFL on player grade. His weakest grade is coverage. He grades out overall at a 76.2. I don't know what P rush means. I can't imagine it's pass rush. The guy's a safety, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, they still do it though.
But he grades out at an 83 pass rush. Coverage grades a 72. So he's still in a good spot. Like, but where you fall off is Craig Woodson grades out at 50th. overall at safety. And I know that, take Pro Football Focus grades with a grain of salt. Everyone has their own, formulas to determine like who's good and who's not. Like is Jalen Hawkins the 7th best safety in football? No, but Pro Football Focus grades him that way. And, and they have Woodson at 50. So, I would say, it's not Hawkins, it's Woodson, and he's a rookie. He's learning to get that. But I feel like they could use it. And maybe you get like a hybrid, somebody who fits, who can, maybe you have like a box type safety who, can like, or not a box safety necessarily, but something. Cause like, for example, like Craig Woodson's run grade is his best grade. He grades out at a 74.6 in run defense, but he grades at a 55 in pass coverage. So maybe you get just like a coverage safety, and for the end of the year, you just figure out what? Really? That was not necessary.
Did you hear me whispering it while you were talking?
No, because you're like, no, you're like a mouse. I also wasn't looking at you. I was looking at Pro Football Focus's page.
I was just sitting there like while you're talking, I was like,
no.
and I was like,
yeah, then you creepily stare, like leaning into your microphone like a weirdo. So maybe you get a guy who's good in coverage so that Woodson can play the run. While you're on the topic, Grant Delpit, according to Pro Football Focus, is one of the worst coverage safeties in the NFL.
yeah, Pro Football Focus can. I can't say it without being.
In terms of coverage grade, Grant Delpit is.
Grant Delpit's a dog. He's meant for Cleveland. The dogs.
They rank him the 37th best coverage safety in the NFL.
Out of how many?
I don't know, but there's 50 on the first page, and he's 37th.
Well, just click on his name.
Let me see. Hold on.
If you click on his name, it'll tell you out of how many.
Let's see. Grant Delpit. He is 14th overall, 9th pass rush, 3rd in run defense, 37th out of 86 in coverage.
Okay, so they have him as like.
Right, but for example, like pass rush, only 30 safeties qualify for the pass rush grade on Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, they must have. I don't know what the qualifications are, but you must have to do so many certain things.
But overall, so far, according to the Pro Football Focus scale, he's having a career year based on numbers. But yeah, like if you can find a coverage safety on the market, and then maybe you just use Woodson as run support for now, and that way you have better coverage in the back end. I'd be fine with that.
I just want to know if they trade for Grant Delpit, I'm going to lose my shit.
Well, you want to know what
Gonna be
should
obnoxious.
do? Seeing how Baltimore is not going anywhere anyway, let's trade for Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Dude,
do you remember how high I was on Kyle
Hamilton?
Hamilton and Brian Branch in the drafts?
Yeah, Brian Branch. So Kyle Hamilton, number 1, Brian Branch, number 4 in terms of PFF's coverage grades in 2025.
Didn't he go one pick before
stupid.
Marte Mapu? That would have been such a steal.
What year
To
was
be
that?
eligible. 23, I believe.
Let's see. Kyle Hamilton was the 2022 draft.
Oh, I meant Brian Branch, but
Oh. I can check both.
I thought Brian Branch was 2023 because I remember like he
Didn't
was
Hamilton
picked.
go high?
He went 14th to the Ravens.
Yeah, that's right.
Brian Branch went the second round, and he was a pick before the Patriots picked. I know that, but I don't know what year.
Let's see. I'll pull it up right now.
23, it looks like.
So Brian Branch went 45th overall, and immediately after the Patriots took Keon White.
Keon White. Okay, I thought it was Martin Mapu, but yeah. So, I mean, you're immediately in a better spot if Brian Branch just falls one more pick, or if Bill was aggressive and traded up the way he should have been.
Yeah, the Patriots took Mapu 76th overall in the 3rd round.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this is funny because like some of them aren't very good, but I don't know if you can see this, Ben. Where are we going? This was my final 2022 rankings for us.
Can you like copy and forward it to me on the chat?
I had Kyle Hamilton was my number 1 ranked player in the 2022 class.
Overall or safety?
Overall.
In 2022?
It went Hamilton,
here we go.
Thibodeau, Ekwonu.
Yeah, you had Ekwonu ahead of Hutchinson.
Hutchinson was 4. I had Evan Neal, which he ended up fucking sucking.
Brutal.
Gardner, Stingley, Devin Lloyd, Jordan Davis, Charles Cross.
I probably didn't. But what's interesting, so Hutchinson, this draft, so Hutchinson went 2, Stingley 3, Sauce Gardner 4, Thibodeau 5, Ekwonu 6, Neal 7, Cross 9, Hamilton 14. Who am I missing? Devin Lloyd. I think he was a 1st-round pick too. Devin Lloyd went 27.
He's a stud.
Davis. I think Jordan Davis was also he was the 13th. Yeah, so I mean interesting. Yeah, you were super high on Kyle Hamilton coming out of college.
Damn, that was I think that was like the first draft that like I really tried to dive deep on. Of like
Sounds about right.
Oh, I freaking loved him. And then I loved Brian Branch. And he's a freaking stud. They
had 2 safeties coming out that year. It was Branch and Jordan Battle. Battle, I think, was a 3rd or a 4th round pick.
That was the year that the Pats had the 14th pick, right?
In 22?
No, it was the
Branch
year
was
they took
23.
Gonzalez?
Branch was 23. Hold on. Look
Yeah, the year they took Gonzalez. Because I remember
Yeah.
Branch was originally being mocked to the Pats potentially at 14, like early in the process.
Yeah, the Patriots traded back from 14 to 17, and then the Steelers took Broderick Jones, and then the Commanders took Emmanuel Forbes right before Christian Gonzalez went 17th.
I remember being I remember the early in the process, Branch was looked at as a 1st-round pick, and as we got closer and closer, he was like falling down the rankings of everybody, and not really. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I would be okay if they took if they moved back and took him, because I really, really, really like him as a player, and the dude's a baller in Detroit now. Granted,
Yeah.
I'm certainly not upset about getting Gonzalez. That Gonzalez was the right pick by all means. Granted, they got lucky that they got super lucky that Washington took.
They did. They got super lucky. You're right. So we don't have to dive down this rabbit hole, but this is the Detroit Lions 2023 draft class. 12th overall, Jahmyr Gibbs. 18th overall, Jack Campbell, linebacker. 34th overall, Sam Laporta. 45th overall, Brian Branch. Can you that's
Jesus.
a slam dunk, like A++ first 4 draft picks.
He was, yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's what transformed them over the last few years is their drafts.
Yeah,
they've hit big on some drafts.
Yeah,
and then finding guys like St. Brown in like the middle rounds.
And it's funny because in all likelihood, the Detroit Lions traded up for Brian Branch because they traded 48 and a 5th round pick to move up to 45, thinking the Patriots. I bet you they probably thought the Patriots were going to take Brian Branch at 46.
Oh, I wanted him so bad.
They probably would have 100%. He went to Bama, right?
I could probably find our messages, bro. That's the best part of not deleting anything.
I do like going back and looking at like who did the Patriots take, and if it didn't work, who went right afterwards that they could have had. So obviously they got lucky that the Commanders took Forbes over Gonzalez, because that would have been an all-time blunder.
Right here, I said, man, I love Branch. If he falls into round 2, I'd consider trading up.
Yeah, and the Lions traded up 4 spots for him, or 3 spots for him, or whatever. That was also a year of run on wide receivers, because I remember you and I were debating like our wide receiver rankings. 4 wide receivers in a row. You had JSN go 20, Quentin Johnson 21, Zay Flowers 22, and then Minnesota took Jordan Addison at 23. Not a great wide receiver draft. Jonathan Mingo was a 2nd-round wide receiver pick.
I just searched.
Rashee Rice was a 2nd-round wide receiver pick in this draft.
So I just searched Branch, and it's a message from me to you that says Branch is a stud. But then it's also a screenshot that I sent from March 1st, 2020. And it's a message that I sent to someone that says, Justin Jefferson to me right now is that late 1st-round pick that we'll look back on and say, why the fuck was he not a top 10 pick right now? Why the fuck was he not a top 10 pick?
Matt Stradamus over here.
Yeah, right.
Come on, like right there.
Because
that's so funny.
Jefferson was the 2020 draft?
Yeah, he went 1 pick before we traded out to the Chargers to get Kenneth Murray, and then that was when we got Kyle Duggar.
That's right. We traded back.
Everyone thought we were going to get Jefferson, and then
yeah. So
the Vikings took him.
So looking back at it, okay, the wide receivers that went in the 1st round. Number 12, Las Vegas Raiders took Henry Ruggs. Vomit.
Was good for a couple of years.
Denver Broncos took Jerry Jeudy. Was good at the time. Good pick at the time. Dallas got CeeDee Lamb at 17. Great pick for them. Maybe worse than the Henry Ruggs pick. The Philadelphia Eagles took Jalen Reagor at 21, right before Jefferson went to Minnesota.
Stupid.
And then the Pats traded out. I kind of liked Kenneth Murray. I was kind of hoping that they would take him. Brandon Ayuk ended up going 25th to the 49ers that year. And then
that was the same year that Patrick Queen went right to.
Yes, Queen went to the Ravens.
The Ravens. Yeah, I wanted him.
This says. So it goes. I messaged you. It says Reese suggested today that the Pats could move back up into the 1st round. And I said if you had to pick Branch or Gibbs, and I said I'll expand it. I said how about the Pats trade up to 30, Branch, Gibbs, DeJuan Jones, or Forbes, pick one. And I said, who do we take at 14? And you didn't really answer the question, but
I probably said corner at 14 and then trading up for Gibbs at 30.
Actually, I said we traded back, took a wide receiver at 21. We took Zay at 21.
Oh, that's right. Trade back and take Zay Flowers.
This is fun going back.
It is. So good wide receiver class. T. Higgins, first pick of the 2nd round. Right after that, Michael Pittman Jr. Jonathan Taylor was the 41st overall pick in the 2020 draft.
Jesus Christ.
At 44, Grant Delpit. Antoine Winfield went 45th. Jalen Hurts went 53rd. He was a guy that I thought the Patriots might target, and kind of like I was high enough on Jalen Hurts and thought that he could be like, I mean, maybe not the guy, but he could be like a legit quarterback in our system.
It's a draft and stash type guy. You're bringing in Cam Newton for that first year and let him learn behind him. You know, that was on board with that exact same thought process.
Yep. They drafted Josh Uche with the 60th overall pick in the second round that year.
Yeah.
All right, we went down a big rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. Anyways, you talked about the draft for 10 seconds, and then we went back into a big revisionist history. But all right, any final thoughts as we head into week 9 for the Patriots?
I mean, I like them to go 7-2. You know, I think if London is back and he's fully healthy, you know, big shocker. I'm not up and up on the Falcons.
That'll be a fun matchup. Him and Gonzalez.
Yeah, like I think that would probably be his biggest test of the year. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. He would, like, to this point in the season, would probably be the best wide receiver he would have covered. Yes.
Probably, and that's a really good matchup for Gonzalez. Like, that's the type of receiver he matches up really well against in terms of, like, I think being able to cover well. So it'll be a really good test for him.
Yeah, so I like the Pats to go 7-2. You know, Penix is a little banged up. The other test is, I mean, Bijan Robinson's the best running back in football, and it's just because he does it all for them.
He was held to under 50 yards this past week, so maybe they could do it again.
Maybe. Well, my concern isn't necessarily the running; it's the fact that, like, if they isolate him, the problem is if he's running routes out of the backfield, you're talking about Robert Spillane trying to cover Bijan Robinson in open space, and that gives me nightmares. Let alone, I don't know. I think I would play like an extra safety. I don't even know. Or granted, they just traded Duggar, but I mean, maybe like Marcus Jones just never comes off the field.
But now they use a Mapu on him.
I mean, put Marcus Jones on him.
Marcus Jones will get his ass ran over.
I mean, but he could keep up with him and deflect some balls.
I think you need a little bit more size.
I mean, how big is Bijan?
Bigger than Marcus Jones. For sure.
I think maybe I think you would be better up putting like Carlton Davis just on him and have Marcus Jones cover whoever's the number 2 down there right now, which is like Darnell Mooney or something like that.
So Bijan's 5'11", 216. I'm just saying, like, because he's quick enough, could you have Marcus Jones take part? Like, could you put him on Bijan in certain cases and just be like, he just can't get open, and then be like, and then once he leaves your area, we need to be passing him off to somebody.
I think they'll be mixing in, and they've been mixing in at a decent amount more than I thought they would. Is they've been in zone a little bit more than usual than I thought that it would be, and I think that they'll be as they start to get a little bit more comfortable, and depending on who they add at the deadline here, maybe they'll start to become a little bit more man-oriented, but against a team like Atlanta where they will rely on Bijan in the pass game so much, I think that they could be going in a little bit more of a zone scheme where they drop in these linebackers so they're not left one-on-one with a linebacker covering Bijan out of the backfield. Because if you do that, you're in trouble. I've joked for weeks now that the best bet against the Patriots, if you're ever going to take one right now, is to take whatever the tight end that the Patriots are playing is, to take the over on their yards. It worked for me with Fannin this past week. It was over 33.5, and he hit that in the first drive.
One thing to keep in mind too, real quick, Bijan is almost at his career high in receiving yards, and they've only played 7 games.
He's so good.
33 catches, 413 yards so far this year, which is 75 yards shy of a career high. His rookie season, he had 487 yards receiving. But given how much they're using him as a receiver, sorry, go ahead.
he's doing everything. He had a bit down week this past week, but he was on pace for like 2,400 total yards or something like that, or something ridiculous number.
Yeah, he's got 962 through 7.
Yeah. No, he's even more. Oh, no, that was JT I was telling you about. He's on pace for like 2,400 scrimmage yards in like 28 touchdowns or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Bijan's on pace for 2,336 yards from scrimmage.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And given where they're at, he'll probably play all 17 games because they'll need that 17th game probably at the end of the year to get in. Maybe.
At this pace, they may not have that chance. But okay, all right, that's gonna do it for this week. I say every week, hopefully this time they're 5-2, they're 6-2. Hopefully they're 7-2. Things are going as good as we could hope for. The Drake May campaign, MVP campaign, is alive and well. I see Ben with the Patriots prediction 26-23. Zach, you got your prediction?
I'll go generic 28-21. I'll be there on Sunday, so hopefully they show out and get us.
Oh, yeah, all right. You're attending.
I'll be attending, yeah. 28-21 pass.
I'll go a flat 30-17. 30-17 win. A game that's pretty competitive as a whole. Like I think it's going to be a good game. A 13-point win sounds a little stretch out, but I think it will be a pretty good game overall. But the Patriots kind of pull away in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Where they they take advantage and they make the extra play or two in the second half. And they win. They take care of business again. Yeah. We've seen it.
Test. Atlanta now has the number 1 pass defense in the NFL after Drake May shredded the Browns and bumped them down a few notches.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah. Atlanta gives up 149 yards a game through the air. That's stupid.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, just wait until this week, baby.
I mean,
Kayshon Boutte's doing that himself.
Yeah, I'd have to look at who they've played because I'm guessing it's probably not a great list of quarterbacks.
Yeah, probably not. But all right, that's going to do it. We'll be back next week when the Patriots are 7-2, and we'll be talking about what is the biggest game in over a month when they go into Tampa Bay and face good old Baker Mayfield. The Patriots will have the CBS number 1 crew, Tony Romo, Jim Nantz. We can have, hopefully, maybe we will have a love fest of Tony Romo where he'll fall in love with Drake May, like the way he does with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
It's true, maybe.
Yeah, maybe he'll start to develop that love where Tony Romo will just be like, "Oh my God, Jim, did you see that play? It was just so beautiful. Oh gosh."
It's not what Tony Romo sounds like, but I appreciate the effort.
Good enough.
Send this to Tony Romo. He's going to be like, what is happening?
Tony Romo used to be elite, and then he got paid, and he became just a gobbler of nonsense in the broadcast booth.
Should put Greg Olsen where he is and have him and Jim Nantz now that Tom Brady stole his spot.
Yeah. But all right. Goodbye. Until next week, we'll raise the banner.
Later.